the first act of this long-term project happened in northern Sweden. Santi there met a couple of senior refugees that were opening their living room to the community, and this inspired her.
Boden, for the ones that don't know where Boden is, it's in the north of Sweden, 40 minutes away from the Arctic Circle. And arriving there, I immediately noted the difference between refugees in a place like Palestine and refugees in Europe. I mean, refugees in Palestine have been there for 70 years. They have a very strong political agency, while in Boden, I found a lot of passivity, a lot of people that arrived there. And, you know, this is, and everybody was telling me, this is not the Sweden they were dreaming of. This is not why they had 40 days of, you know, crossing Europe to arrive there. They were alone, they were desperate in a way, and many of them thought that Boden is not the destination. No, it's like they made a wrong, they arrived to the wrong place, and then if they would go somewhere else to the south of Sweden, like Stockholm and even better Malmö, then they would find the Sweden they have dreamed of. Going to the house of Yasmin and Brahim, this passivity I was speaking about in their living room disappeared. My first trip, I was accompanied by the curators of the public art agencies to introduce me to the place, to introduce me to everything. And, you know, they were sitting and in many ways, Yasmin and Brahim were hosting them. And by hosting them, they were matter of fact hosting what was for us in this moment, the Swedish government, right? And I saw a lot of prideness into this hosting. There was a lot of agency. It's from there that the whole living room in Boden departure, and we were given a public living room in the city. You know, it turned to be this place where if you are a foreigner in the north of Sweden and you don't want necessarily to go to the mosque or to the church, and you are looking for a civic place, this became one of these places. And if you are a Swede and you don't want to live only in your homogeneous public space, the living room became a space of encounter. All this is happening beyond me, and all what I do, I think that is more to create these spaces and to link them with each other, to build a conceptual framework. But the people that are surrounding Yasmin and Yasmin and Brahim themselves are actually framing hospitality in a completely different manner, understanding their act of hosting as a politicized act of hosting.
And there are other pop-up versions of the living room. So, for example, when I met you, we were at Jaspis in Stockholm, and there was you were hosting the living room. And then I know that you've done it also in your house in Stockholm, and there was a version in Arkdes. And then you traveled outside Sweden. So, for example, at the New York University campus in Abu Dhabi, the main one, because it's active on a semi-permanent base, is the living room at the Van Abbe Museum in Eindhoven. So I wanted to ask you how these other versions work, when there is you, when there are other people that in a way take over, and what the general dynamic.
You know, after doing Boden, I understood that I can do this also for myself in Stockholm as a way of me claiming my agency in the city where I am living in. And we began to open up our living room. And then, you know, I received this invitation to Arkdes, and Arkdes is in Stockholm. And in that sense, it was maybe the act in Arkdes was very much an act of claiming the public space. Each one of us needs to have a space where private and public overlap, and therefore we have, especially when we move to a new places or we don't feel belonging to the public, this intersection between the public and the private becomes our chance to demand agency in the place where we are living. So I became very much interested in this intersection between the private and the public. What I want to say is that the living room is not only about refugees. The living room is a way to exchange these collectivities together. And this is my ideal society I have. A truly place of diversity needs to be done where people have the right for self-representation. If you take this away, it does not, this is not a space of diversity. It became very clear to me is that I am not buying this project of integration, and I want to create my way of belonging in Europe today.
What kind of conditions you require the institutions to host the living room? What changes the project triggers in an institutions? And then maybe we can talk about the Van Abbe Museum, because they have this semi-permanent, just at the entrance, living room.
Yeah.
And so, because here we are talking about people, so you were saying it starts from the host, doesn't start from the physical structure of the living room. So there is one person with creating a community, with investing itself into the project, so it can't just be switched on and off. One day is in exhibition, the day off is the storage, like usually institutions do.
Yeah. So I mean, I have to say that the living room takes different formats each time. It is, and sometimes it takes the format of a performance, like in the case of the NYU, in the case of the even ArcDis, because I was the one actually activating these living rooms, and it was much more like an art performance to actually deliver the message of this concept, right? So these are ones that are not problematic, that would not require a lot from institutions, that would actually begin and end with normally an exhibition. In the Van Abbe Museum, actually, I was very also skeptical about what does it mean to have the living room inside a museum, inside a white cube. And I was sure that it does not work. But it happened to me that I would encounter, first person to encounter. Sometimes, I don't know, the things are there and you just have to take them as they stand. The first person I would encounter is the security guard of the Van Abbe Museum. And he is an Afghani guy. His name is Shafiq. He says, I want to be the host. And we agreed. And I met the director, and I say, I settle it out. It's done. We are doing it. And then Shafiq began in his own way to invite rejected asylum seekers. The living room inside the museum is the space where rejected asylum seekers that are normally seen as people not to be trusted in society took the position of becoming, as using their words, we became heroes inside this living room. We became suddenly visible, and we speak and have contact with people in society that we would have never access to. And when the exhibition ended in the Van Abbe Museum, there was such a strong community that there was no way of ending it. We were in front of this, is that what should we do now? And at this point, both the Boden and the Van Abbe Museum are two cases, one completely outside of the museum and one inside the museum, that are requiring a completely different responsibilities, answers, how the museum will become an active member into the sustainability of a project that an artist would have created. And what does that mean for a museum? It is a creature that is alive. It's something that requires all of us to a bit think differently, the way we understand art, the way we understand acquisition, the way we understand commissions. And it's not an easy, but I have to say that for me, it's really incredible, the openness I am finding into let's think together.